aspirational hero. Move that aspirational, 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 move that aspirational goal. So the aspirational heroes need to be there. They need to be pure 100% from the beginning. They need to be at that unobtainable goal of perfection and good and hopeful and inspirational and all of that. Move that aspirational, 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 move that aspirational. Stop deconstructing heroes. Aspirational are cathartic, motivational. Move that aspirational, 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 to aspire.
Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel. Sounds like I'm coming through. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I neglected to plug my headphones in, but everything's fine. Everything's connected as usual. So welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to an Office Hours live stream. It's I see Guy Vart's comment. I most certainly move that aspirational hero. Doing a stream a little early tonight, as you may have noticed. Usually I stream about 9:30. But this weekend, Soundtracks of Birdman, our good friend Daniel is from Soundtracks of Birdman. He did this thing last year where he had a sound engraver joined him and they watched this concert live. You know, he like buys tickets and they watch a virtual concert. I even forgot who it was. He's going to hate me for that. But they're playing all Star Wars music, like John Williams music, and sound engraver is going to join him again this year. And the concert starts at 9:30, right about the time that I usually stream. So I didn't want to like fight for bandwidth, you know, with sound engraver. So I just figured, well, I'll stream earlier, and then I can grab a nap. Usually I grab a nap before the stream, but figured we'd do this that way. So kind of low in volume. I can turn that up. Let me see. I was messing with some settings beforehand, so that might be why. That is all the way up, mic volume. Hopefully that's not, is that booming anybody out too much there or whatever? Oh, you know, did the game pop down? Maybe? I don't know. You can let me know if I'm screaming through you, the mic or anything. But glad people showed up anyway. Coming early, I know there are a lot of people, you know, maybe aren't ready to watch the stream or they're busy or whatever, and they'll be here later going, where's Prof? But yeah, it's here beforehand. To be completely honest with you, well, let me welcome the chat first. Ghost Planet Max Inc. was here first. Even an hour and a half early, Ghost Planet Max Inc. is here first. So welcome to you. Of course, my dear sound engraver. Omega, good to see you. Ghost, Guy Vart, great to see you there. Darth Enigma was with us. Spidey Rules, Andre Hernandez, Leia Plus Size, Guy Vart, as I said. And many more people here watching, apparently. So great to see everybody. Let me just go ahead and be honest with you. I don't have anything to say about Disney today. I mean, if it comes up in conversation, sure. I'm just trolling the crap out of the grifter channels. I don't. It blows my mind that people can't open their eyes and see what these channels are doing. I mean, I'm very against woke. I hate everything to do with woke, and I talk about it on my channel. I think it deserves to be talked about. But we have gone well past saying the things that need to be said and you know, just talking about it because it's an important topic. No, it's a business now. It's a business. And a handful of channels have learned that. They've learned what you have to do. They've learned how to clickbait. They've learned how to say the right things. They've learned how to perpetuate this war that's going on. But we're winning, guys. We are winning. We are winning. But they'll never declare the war won because then their channels wouldn't make any more money. So it's you know, and they're reviewing, they're giving attention to all this stuff. So I didn't have an idea for a thumbnail tonight, and I thought, what's a classic, like, by the book, you know, anti-woke channel thumbnail. And it's always they. Oh, there. Oh, we got him on the ropes now. And it's usually like all caps and all, And so it's like, whatever. Didn't really, I mean, I got some things we might talk about, but we can kind of do a Q&A as well. So, yeah, that's, if you came here looking for like some big Disney news, sorry, I'm straight up trolling you. I thought that would be kind of be made clear by the mouse hanging on a fish hook with the click, the arrows to it and everything. So, yeah, that's it. Private Eye in retrospective, welcome. What happened? It's like an hour before usual time. Man, I have to go for my Saturday pizza. I know. It's not a regular thing. Again, like I said, Sound Engraver is going to be on somebody else's channel. Soundtracks with Birdman. Sound Engraver, go ahead and put the link in the chat, if you will, for Soundtracks with Birdman's channel. They're going to be watching an orchestra play John Williams' Star Wars music at 9:30, so I didn't want to fight for bandwidth with, my dear Sound Engraver. So just going a little bit early tonight. So that's what. Yeah, don't worry, Eldritch fan. I've got nothing to say about Disney because they're horrible. Disney's evil. They're like, why do you keep beating that dead horse? Stop giving them attention. No, I don't mean link to the stream. I just mean link to to Birdman's channel. If you could do that for me, Sound Engraver, appreciate that. Yeah. So I'm a little. Usually nap and I might be groggy, but I'm rested, and then we go. But like again, I don't really have a huge topic for tonight. One thing I was going to talk about, just briefly mention a little bit. I don't know how far it goes. If you guys have things to say about it or whatever, we can. If not, we can just kind of do a Q&A. We can also wrap up early. I'm cool for that this evening as well. But I was I've been in a really weird place lately with my own writing, and I think this would actually pertain to a lot of people's creativity, whether you're an artist, whether you're a writer. Maybe you don't really think of yourself as a creative so much, but you do something that you love to do, that you create or put out into the world, some kind of hobby or whatever. And specifically for writers, visually or written word wise, I think you'll have something to relate to about this. I haven't written anything in a long time. It hasn't been quite a whole year, but it's almost been close to it. And that's absurd for me. I mean, I'm a writer. And it got harder to do with my schedule. Sound Engraver and I had the wedding, last year. So the year before that, prepping for it and stuff. And it's hard to believe it's almost 7 months being married. It just flies right by. But, busy, and then school after the wedding, of course, throwing myself back into work. As an adjunct professor, you have to take up as many classes as they'll possibly give you because they pay you peanuts for each class. And then, doing some tutoring on the side, some editing and this and that. And it got to the point, and I've talked to Sound Engraver about this too, it got to the point this last semester where I even when I would have a free moment or would have a free evening, it was hard to do anything that I could still find fulfillment in. Like my hobby, like playing video games or reading or whatever, things that I normally enjoy doing, I was just numb to it. They just didn't give me any enjoyment whatsoever. And at first I thought, is this depression? And that really kind of weirded me out because, depression comes in different ways for different people depending on what you have. But, depression in general is usually because of something situationally, that's going on, or it's some kind of chemical imbalance. Well, obviously, situationally, my life's great. I just married freaking Sound Engraver. Everything's great, busy, but great. And I thought, well, I've never really had a history of a chemical imbalance or anything, so that would just be weird. But I was just thinking through, like, what is this? Why am I just so just empty, in terms of, like, enjoyment in life and stuff. And I finally figured out what it was. I didn't go to a therapist or anything. I mean, who has the time or money for that anyway? But I just did research, and I finally figured out what it was. And I talked to Sound Engraver. I said, I was absolutely burnt out. Like the clinical burnt out. We can say, oh, I'm burnt out. It's just sort of a colloquial thing. But really clinically burnt out in terms of, you've got so much to do. And in my work, the teaching in the semester, it's very time consuming. It's crazy time consuming. And then, all of the responsibilities with my daughter, the caring for a special needs child is pretty heavy, and trying to take care of a lot of different things, little jobs I do. And it got to the point where I was just completely fried. I mean, so burnt out. And I looked up, okay, well, how do you cure burnout? I knew that, my semester's over now. I teach, the fall and spring semesters as an adjunct professor. During the summer, I don't, they usually don't. Every now and then they'll throw you a summer class, but usually they don't give those to adjuncts, at least in the area, the region where I work. So, I still do part-time tutoring at some online university writing centers and do some freelance editing work and stuff like that. And I tend to enjoy that a bit more. I really enjoy more editing. And I enjoy teaching too. It's just when you have like 5 classes or the equivalent of 5 classes, it's just like, man, wow, freaking, it's against the wall. So I looked into, okay, well, I'm gonna not have to do teaching over the summer, so maybe that I'll be fine then, right? I'll be fine. And it turns out that burnout, if you really have, true clinical burnout, where you're just fried, it actually takes a while. Even when the thing that is burning you out is out of your life, like the semester's over, I don't have to teach right now, I've got some space to, it still takes time. It takes time to, give your mind just time to heal and recuperate. And it has started. I'm doing so much better with it. I've actually, been enjoying some of the things that I do recently and stuff like that. So it's great. It's coming on back. And I was telling Sound Engraver, I had a few nights, I had a list of some extra nights or whatever because of some scheduling differences and whatnot. But whenever I do have a good, night off, Sound Engraver's busy doing some of her work and I'm just doing my own thing or whatever, I've started discovering, I'm going back to some of the classic films that maybe I haven't seen, some I'm rewatching. I still haven't put pen to paper or word to screen yet in terms of writing, but it's kind of like slowly building my interest back up, or like getting that, resurrecting the creative, inside, that muse inside of me, and I think that's just the process. I don't know if you guys have ever, dealt with anything like this, just totally been burnt out. Maybe you didn't even know what it was. And it kind of comes at different degrees. Some people, in a job can be burnt out for years and take years to heal. I'm not nothing like that to that extent. But I've got a great desire to write. I want to write. I'm a writer. I'm only truly fulfilled when I'm being creative and when I'm writing and creating stories. But I also can't force it. I'm not one of those writers that can just, 7 a.m. is my time to write. I'm here and I'm writing, and even if it's all crap, I know I've written. No, my brain doesn't work like that. I can't write like that. I'm not one of those writers that can just write a draft and make myself keep going until I'm at the end of it and then we'll revise. No, I have to revise as I go along. Otherwise I don't find fulfillment in it, So, I was at a place where I wanted to write, still wanting, get to writing, and I think I'm pretty close to it, but I just still quite wasn't like the ideas, the motivation. It just, still wasn't quite there with the burnout. But I've started really enjoying letting myself, as a writer, as a creative person, rediscovering my love for story. Now, that's never left me, but what I mean by rediscovering my love for story is, rediscovering, there's just the joy of watching a great film or reading a great book or discovering a great comic and so forth. And I've been doing some of that, but it's really great. And I started to think about, story does inspire us, whether we're creative people ourselves and we are, writing or drawing or whatever, or whether we're just living our lives, in our own hobbies and our own responsibilities. Stories inspire us. And we need at least the inspiration of story, and I think we get it, and we need to get it from more places than just the written page. Like I said, I've always talked about how we need the written page. Even if you're an audiobook listener, you should have at least one book, even in addition to comics. I mean, comics are great, but you should also have just at least one prose work that you're sitting down and you're just reading at a time. It's just good for the brain. It's, it's good for practice and everything. But we get stories in a lot of other places. Of course, film is one of them, but film story is very different. We do, and I think we need to recognize that even if we say a film is good, it's not necessarily a good story in the same way that it would be if it was written in a book or something like that. This is the first thing I'll talk about. So something that's a non word on the page source of story that you can become inspired by. I recently watched, I saw the reviews were coming out in my feed a lot of people reviewing this new, apparently there's a 4K version of Once Upon a Time in the West, the Sergio Leone classic. A lot of people say it's his best spaghetti western, and it is a great movie. It's been ages since I've seen it. I don't think I've seen it since high school, to be honest with you. You know, when I started taking my film classes and everything, and really first kind of developed my love for film. You know, film as literature, and my love for analyzing it and enjoying the stories. And all of the reviews that I saw they were all about the 4K transfer, and the bit rate, and I'm like, okay, that's great. But can anybody talk about the movie? I mean, it's a crazy, awesome movie. Can anybody actually give an analysis of it? And I dug hard enough and eventually found some videos here and there that would say something about it. So I rewatched it myself recently. And it is a truly amazing film. It's like 2.5 hours, I think. Sergio Leone. It features Charles Bronson, Jason Rhubarb, and Claudia Cardinale. Or Cardinale, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her last name right. But the big baddie, of course, is Fonda, Henry Fonda, yeah. Who's his big role is playing a bad guy, a heavy, where he's usually the good guy, and that's what it was shocking people, and that's kind of what it brought people into it for. But it's an incredible example of a way that film can be a great story exclusive to its medium. There are some stories that are great books, and then there are also great films. To Kill a Mockingbird, right? Hopefully you've read that in school. Classic American novel, wonderful novel, and just a good solid novel as is. And then the film version was wonderful too. Gregory Peck, and it was a great movie. But then there are some movies that exist as film, and they're great stories in film, but you'd have to change so much if you were going to do a novelization, and that it would almost not even be the same story. But you'd have to make those changes to make it work on the page. And Once Upon a Time in the West, I think, is a great example. A lot of people use that movie. It has this opening scene, has very minimal, I think like 2 or 3 lines of dialogue, and that's it. It's like 10 or 15 minutes, and he's just telling the story visually. Sergio Leone could do that. Alfred Hitchcock could do that. Some directors can do that very well. And, Sergio Leone loves those extreme close-ups of the gunslingers and stuff, and really does make you feel like you're on this train platform. You're at this station with these outlaws there. It really does make you feel like that. And you're really drawn into every moment of the movie. And I think even, this is not a film that any Gen Zer could watch without, a lot of practice. And I mean a lot of practice. Very few millennials could actually honestly watch this movie without a lot of practice, because it is a real strain on modern day attention spans. It's not, something happening every second, but if you let yourself and give yourself over into it, you really are drawn into each scene. You feel like you're there. It is a very interesting, order of events, a story that takes place, the characters and so forth. And you feel that after watching the movie. At the same time, then I was thinking, because I've heard so many people kind of watch the movie and then they run and do a video about it. Or they just kind of, they remember how cool their experience of the movie was, and they say a lot of things in their reviews. This throws all that stupid screenwriting. Bill Burr was saying this. Bill Burr's great. He's very funny. And it was just a snippet of a podcast I caught him on, but he was mocking some of those books on screenwritings that talk about, you need to have your inciting incident and so forth and so forth. They're like, this movie shows you don't need any of that. I'm like, whoa. You need that. Not everyone's Sergio Leone. Not every script writer is going to get a Sergio Leone to direct it and so forth. And, but thinking about the story, there are a lot of holes in it. There are a lot of things that you just kind of have to assume that this is why that character did that. And was that character, did they work this out beforehand, or did they just not? And you just have to assume. You just have to think and guess. And, it's kind of the thing, if you wrote that as a story in a draft and brought it to me as an editor, I'd say, wow, you're a long way from done with this. You got a lot of problems with character motivations. You got a lot of problems with this, because it wouldn't be a good story written down on the paper. But visually, with the medium of film and with everything that Sergio Leone does, it was wonderful. It's a great movie. You should definitely watch it, especially if you're even at all remotely interested in a Western. It's not my favorite kind of Western. Spaghetti Westerns are, pretty specific niche. I prefer, if I had to pick, I'd prefer, more classic style Western. But, Spaghetti Westerns are great. So I was just thinking about that. experiencing story in a different medium where it's done very, very well in that other medium. That helps me grow as a writer. Even though I'm not a film director, I can think about what made it work so well as a film and think about maybe things that would make a prose story work so well as prose. What are the strengths of that medium? What are some ways I can try to mirror what the film did through the film medium and try to put that into my own writing or whatever. It was a lot of fun thinking about that. So that was the first kind of place otherwise a place other than the written word and the written page that I was experiencing story and finding some inspiration when maybe just trying to plow through reading a novel, if I was just too burnt out or whatever, just wasn't quite, doing it for me. I've got some other things that I'll mention or some other places that I received story from, but let me check in with the chat here because I see you guys chatting up away. A couple of things. Oh, Big Al came. Hello, Big Al. Let's see. Guyvart says, as someone with autism, we do tend to add extra difficulties in life. No. I don't mean to, and I hope I didn't express it like that. My daughter is a joy, and it's a joy every minute I get to spend with her. But any parent of any child, and really, it's not the thing with a special needs child like Alyssa and her specific autism is that even though she's 12 years old, she is so cognitively younger than that. She's her development's way younger than that, and it's kind of like having a lifelong toddler in a lot of ways. Some ways she's very intelligent, some way, but in terms of development and the level of care that I have to give to her on a daily basis, it's kind of like having a lifelong toddler. So that itself can just be wearing, imagine just having any toddler, but no, she's a joy. But it's a lot of time and attention. I know you didn't mean it like that, Guyvart, but hopefully I didn't come across like that because I'd never want to sound like that. Guyvart also says, I bought a book. You bought the book called The Writer's Journey to help me improve as a writer while I'm still on the journey to improve my art. You must not have been here the last stream, Guyvart, because somebody, I forget who it was asking me for a book recommendation. And I said the Hero's Journey for Writers, or The Writer's Journey, the one by, now I can't remember. The author's name. But I think we're talking about the same one. But yeah, it's a great book. Great book. Malwinus Cyrano said, I recently watched the first episodes of the Superman animated series. I get your point. I do still think that Cavill is a great Superman. He was just in the wrong movie. Some people think that, I totally got a right to think that. Because of things he said and things I've seen him do in other films, I don't think he'd be a great Superman in any movie, but he has the look. I think you and I can at least agree on that. Vogler, thank you. Christopher Vogler was the name. Ghost Planet said, I haven't seen the film version of To Kill a Mockingbird. Yeah. Superman favorite film and book is To Kill a Mockingbird. I think that was where was that? It was in an old comic or an old radio serial that he mentions that or something. I think so. Darth Enigma says, pretty much, I'm on the autism spectrum, but I am considered higher functioning. I know a young woman with autism who is 3 years younger than me. She's very much like a toddler. Yeah, that's why they call autism a spectrum. It's different for everybody. And the biggest mistake people can make is, oh, you're autistic? You're not autistic. No, my cousin's autistic, and he likes to do this, and that. You don't do anything like that. Like, whoa. If you know one person with autism, good for you. You know one person with autism. Yes, on the spectrum, everybody is similar, or I guess on the same spectrum, but that just means that everybody's very different, very, very different, on the spectrum. Like a lot of different things that some people will be challenged with, some different things that some people will find strengths in and stuff like that, as you guys know. Good, yeah, my witness, I concur. Yeah, I agree. I thought I saw a comment here that I didn't want to miss because I thought it kind of pertained to what I was saying, but I'm not seeing it now. Leah Plus Size says, saw your video review of Disney's Hercules. Good breakdown of it. Thank you. Wanted to know if you've seen the TV show and Kevin Sorbo's take on his myth. The TV show, do you mean the TV show, the cartoon they did of Hercules, which was a prequel to the film? Because that was like on the Disney afternoons. They did a really cool cartoon. It was him still adolescent Hercules training under Phil, which was actually pretty good. It even had a crossover with the Aladdin cartoon at one point. Or you just mean Hercules' show. I do like the Kevin Sorbo's Hercules. Anything Kevin Sorbo does. Well, I think I said this last time the same way in a stream. Someone asked me about that, and I said, anything Kevin Sorbo does is great. And then I remembered all of his, like, the Christian movies he's making and stuff, which, hey, applaud him. Good for him. I'm glad he's getting work, but those movies aren't really for me. But yeah, a lot of the stuff he does are wonderful. And I say that as a Christian, by the way. I like quality entertainment, and, those movies tend to not be up to that level. But yeah, I loved the Hercules show. I'd have to go back and really rewatch a lot of it to give an analysis of that in terms of the archetypes, similarly to what I did for Disney's Hercules. But that's a good idea. I probably should do that. That'd be something fun to do over the summer. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Yeah, but he's great. I met him. I met Kevin Sorbo once. He's at a con. He's a really awesome guy. Even though I loved him in Hercules, for me, he's always primarily Captain Dylan Hunt of the Andromeda Ascendant. That's where I really, love him from. Coffee says Disney has no idea what they're doing with any of their properties, worlds and characters they own. The more properties that they buy, the more material they have to push their ideologies and agenda. Oh, it's so true. It's so true. And I mourn what Disney was, because it was so special to me. Maybe not 10 years ago. Yeah, 10 years ago. 2014. They were still... I would defend Disney big time to people who, would kind of, Disney, they ruined the fairy tales. Disney, whatever. I would defend Disney big time, because I just thought what a wonderful thing Walt had created, and what a wonderful part of American folklore they were. And hey, you didn't have to like every movie, whatever. But they so quickly just crumbled and just completely about-faced and changed everything they are and everything they're about. And it's because the cancer inside finally grew to proportions in which it could reach out and take over. But yeah, to the point where now somebody who dearly loved and would defend at every level Disney, I utterly hate that company. Don't care for anything they create, and think that nothing better could happen for them to crash and burn. What a horrible, evil company they have become. I'm not talking about I hate the individual people or anything. No. I'm just saying that the company, what it stands for, what it's trying to do, what it's trying to, it's an evil, predatory entity that needs to end, definitely. Santa Graver said, wasn't Princess and the Frog Disney's last hurrah? I don't know if it was the last one. I to be honest, I enjoyed Tangled. If you look at Tangled through the lens of everything they've done since then, and maybe you can kind of see maybe what they were trying to move towards, and yeah, maybe I can see, people kind of dumping on Tangled, but Tangled I thought was a fun, exploration into the computer animated. Of course, it's ridiculous that every single stinking thing since then's been that. But yeah, Princess and the Frog was wonderful. I like that quite a bit. Malwinus said, I hope I'm saying that right. Malwinus? Cyrano. I'll call you Cyrano. You say I watched quite some animated series of heroes. He's right about the new movies. The aspirational hero aspect is lacking. There's always conflict within. Yeah, and that's lazy writing too, right? I mean, when there's only one way to write a character or one way to do things, it gets to be lazy, definitely. Yeah, Leia Plus, I think it's a crime what Iger's done to Disney, the parks. So they did to Marvel and Star Wars, just criminal. Yeah, I agree. I used to go to Disney World about once a year, if I could, when I could afford it. And this was before Alyssa was even born. Did get to take her once, and as a child, and she loved it. I've got a great picture of I'm holding her on the ferry that goes from the visitor center into the Magic Kingdom, and she sees Cinderella's castle for the first time, and Cinderella's her favorite Disney princess, and her face is, and I'm holding her. It's just, it was great, and I'm glad that she got to go see it. I think her mother and her stepfather are going to take her this fall, which is fine, because Alyssa, she doesn't know, she doesn't have the cognitive ability and understanding of this nonsense that's going on. She'll still see the stuff she loves there, and and appreciate that. But I couldn't. You couldn't pay me to go back to Disney World now. It would be such a sad, sorrowful experience for me to see what wonderful things were and what it's become. Yeah. So, let me get back to my topic then. I talked about, my own journey here, being so fried and burnt out to where I couldn't even work, couldn't even write. And I was having trouble just getting that enjoyment and fulfillment out of reading a novel or even a comic book, really, because I was so fried. So I had to start looking for the inspiration of story in different places. And I just talked about, film as one place, and I just gave the one example there of Once Upon a Time in the West, which is a great example. I've watched a lot of other films. Doing the reviews for the podcast, my Iconicast podcast really helped too. Talking about whether it was Fright Night or Underworld and all these things. The other place where you can really get story, sorry, my voice is squeaking. Sounds like I'm going through puberty. It's all these allergies. The other place where you can really get some good inspiration from story, if you look in the right ones, is music, songs, songwriters. The first cassette I ever bought, album, it was in cassette form. The first cassette I ever bought for myself was Billy Joel's Greatest Hits. And I was was it third or fourth grade? Maybe third. Because it was when Oliver and Company, Disney's Oliver and Company, had come out. And Billy Joel did the voice for Dodger, the dog character, from Charles Dickens' Dodger, Oliver Twist. And I thought that was so cool. I loved the character of Dodger. I loved the singing, the voice, and then, my mother's like, oh, that's Billy Joel. I'm like, who's Billy Joel? And, she showed me, and I thought that was so cool. So, like, the first, cassette I bought for my own money to go listen into my own Walkman with was the Billy Joel's Greatest Hits. And it wasn't, they've also given him like a 2-volume, but this was just a 1-volume set. And it had all the big ones on there. Of course, Piano Man, Allentown, Pressure, right on up to, did it have, it had We Didn't Start the Fire. I think that was there too. Or maybe it wasn't before that. I forget. But it had all these great songs. And I remember listening to those, Still Rock and Roll to Me, She's Got a Way, all these kinds of things. And Billy Joel's one of those singers, or one of those songwriters, who really knows how to tell a story with each and every song. Not every artist does this. Not every songwriter does this. Some of them are just writing more expressive. Some of them are writing more fluff. But what I always loved about Billy Joel so much is he tells a story. Each and every song he has tells a story. Sometimes it's narratively, like Moving Out, where he's talking about the characters and stuff. Other times he's one of the characters in the story, and he's talking about the experience of going through this and that. And, in elementary school, long before I ever, really tried to write stories, I mean, maybe a little bit here and there, that was teaching me how to construct a story. And it was coming through a music, from a song, not, I can't learn how to write a prose story, but the structures were there. The structure started to... So I went back recently and started listening to some Billy Joel. It's one of the things I love about Alice Cooper, too. Other than some... certain eras of his career, he's always been a really solid storyteller with any of his songs. And he talks about how he learned that from Chuck Berry, just really telling a story with each tale. And it's a story in the way that a medium of a song would be a story. And that's another place where I started gaining a lot of inspiration from story or whatever, and just learn, to appreciate it. And I was finding some fulfillment and enjoyment of story in something that wasn't necessarily opening a book. And audiobooks help with that. They can help, if you're kind of fried or burnt out. But I got back to where I'm really loving them. I'm plowing through Knights of the Old Republic comics again and really enjoying those. I said that right. Knights of the Old Republic. Okay. I recently joined the Knights of Columbus, which is a Catholic fraternity. And every time I try to say Knights of Columbus, like, oh, I joined the Knights of Columbus or this and that, my brain just like misfires and says Knights of the Old Republic. So I'm telling people, yeah, I joined the Knights of the Old Republic, which would be freaking awesome. But, alas, 'tis not a thing. So, yeah, I don't know. Films, songs. I tried to discover story in, if you're going to look at television series, like films to a certain degree, you really have to go back 15 or so years. If it was made before 2010, chances are it's going to be very poorly written, as evidenced by my reviews of Sleepy Hollow or Grimm. Loved a lot of things, loved a lot of really cool things about those series, the ideas they had and everything. But something happened. Len Wiseman, the great Hellman of Underworld, was one of the people behind Grimm, or behind Sleepy Hollow rather. And there's something happened in the teens. Filmmakers just didn't care. I did a whole stream about this earlier. They don't care about writing anymore. They don't care about story. It's just let's get to the next hook. Let's get to the next big thing to get somebody in there. I think it might have started. I mean, J.J. Abrams is a big part of that with his stupid mystery boxes. Was Lost? Did that come before the? I'm forgetting the timeline. The Battlestar Galactica remake that they did, which is awful. It's awful. You'll occasionally meet diehard fans that want to crucify you for saying that, but it's true. It's just it was so poorly written. Everything was written for the moment. Everything was written for you to enjoy that one moment, and it didn't fit together, and it didn't mean anything, and there's no happy, fulfilling arc to anything. And that came from 24. Now I never watched 24, so maybe 24 was done better than that. But Battlestar Galactica was very much let's do this old classic sci-fi show in the genre, in the style of a 24 type melodrama, and that started killing story. And then it'll forever just be mind-boggling to me. It's such a crying shame that the showrunners for the amazing, truly wonderful, truly magical Stargate SG-1 and Stargate Atlantis, they decided to just scrap that. MGM wanting to sell was part of it, and they just decided to cancel Atlantis and do a new show. Let's just do a new show and do it Stargate Universe. Take the wonderful warmth, the charm, everything that everybody loved about the Stargate franchise and completely scrap it and remake Battlestar Galactica style Stargate Universe, which is horrid. It's got a great cast. That's the only thing good I can say about it. Everything else is garbage from top to bottom. The idea, the story, the execution, the directing, it's just wretched piece of vomit on screen. And I'll never understand. I mean, what a tragedy to take something so precious and so wonderful that you had, and just because they were bored of it. They were bored of it. We want to do something different. It's time to do something different. We can't just do the same thing. I'm sorry. Did it work? Did people enjoy it? Is it making the world a better place? Oh, yeah, don't do that same thing again. For heaven's sake, don't do that. Anyway, how did I get to talking about Stargate? I told you I didn't really have a game plan tonight. I just thought I'd troll a little bit with the thumbnail and then and chat about this or that or whatever popped into my head. So anyways, let me go back into the chat here and see what's going on. Sounding Guru says, remember to tell Alyssa's mother that Tinkerbell is no longer at the meet and greet. I didn't know that. Not sure why, but I think Tink is about to have her own separate franchise away from the Magical Kingdom. That's weird. They did the whole Tinkerbell series of films. And who was the guy that helmed those movies? He got canceled from the Me Too movement, which was stupid. But he did a really great series of movies. All those movies were great except for the last one. The Never Beast was kind of stupid. But they kind of knew it was going to be their last one, so they were kind of throwing things, out the window and just trying to have fun with that or whatever. But continuity-wise, it was weird. But yeah, Tinkerbell had her own, and Alyssa loves those movies, loves the Tinkerbell movies, as well as the classic Peter Pan. But so they've kind of already done that. It's weird that I hadn't heard about that. That's bizarre. Sound Engraver, I was telling her that, and I've talked about this on my podcast too, trying to curate a collection of physical media, making sure I own certain movies that I think are worthy of being preserved and should be preserved, but also the ones that I would enjoy and that I would, and I've tried to really collect a lot of the good classic Disney movies, but, get yourself a copy of Peter Pan before they take out the Indian scene, because it's only a matter of time. Get yourself a copy of Dumbo before they just completely nix the crow scene, because it's only a matter of time. And these are great classic movies, Aristocats before they nix the Siamese cat. I mean, so I get copies of those and Peter Pan. What a great movie! What a great movie! I even show scenes of that in my constructing American Heroes class when we start talking about the trickster, because Pan's a perfect trickster. I mean, when he's first revealed, he's a shadow jumping across rooftops, and he peeks around a chimney, and Tinkerbell's light comes, and only the bottom of his face is illuminated, so it looks like he's got sort of a mask on. It looks like a trickster. It's perfect. And once you see that and start looking at the blurred boundaries within that movie, they're epic. They're everywhere. Cyrano says, yeah, Harry Dresden is a decent hero. Yeah, I need to read those books. I watched the short-lived television series that they did on Sci-Fi Channel and actually really enjoyed that. I know there were some major changes. I think like Bob was an actual skull in the book, not a phantom attached to the skull and some stuff like that. But I really love the idea of that from the series, and I think I have the first book and maybe another one in the series. And I think I started reading it, but got distracted or something, or got busy and wasn't able to complete it. So yeah, that is something I'd like to, because I love the detective archetype, and what a cool idea to make a fantasy wizarding world with a private eye detective, to mash a wizard with a hard boiled private eye. That's a cool idea. So we'll see. Let's see. Oh, hello, AL. Good to see you there. Check the time here, too. 8:50. All right, I'll go for about maybe 10 more minutes. Probably wrap it up here soon. Again, kind of a weird stream. Didn't really have a plan, like I said. But it's been fun. It's been fun chatting. So you guys are chatting with each other. Just want to see if I'm missing things. Stress Level says, it's like how game studios add a bunch of updates to games that don't matter and not fix any problems they had. You mean the whole, let's not complete a story really well. Let's just keep throwing new things out. New things. Hey, what if this? What if that? Yeah, I know we kind of hinted at that earlier, but forget that. Do something new now. Or new season, new something new. Let's throw this in or that. Yeah. Really, if you want to know how not to write, pretty much you can watch any television show made after like 2012. That's not a hard and fast rule. I'm sure there are exceptions, but Melanie said, I do like the New Galactica, but I get your point regarding the change of narrative compared to the original. Yeah, Big Al would agree with you, and Big Al is probably fuming right now somewhere if he's not listening. His ears are burning because I'm daring to say something bad about the All-Star Galactica. But it wasn't, I mean, like, that too had a great cast, right? That too had a wonderful cast of characters, actors, and it hooks you in, right? That opening movie, the Cylons attack and everything. It's like, dang, what a cool idea. And it really does pull you in. And it did me when it first started airing. And you're watching episode, and somewhere like, I think it was mid-season of the first season, or maybe towards the second half of it, you start to realize they are systematically tearing down each and every character. Like, there's nobody to truly root for. And that's not the only show that did that. This is what Stargate Universe did too, and other shows have done. Again, I've never actually saw 24, but that kind of style is where they got a lot of this from. But every time a character kind of emerges as somebody who's sort of really trying to do the right thing, then comes up an episode where they got to tear him down too, or tear her down too, and make her problematic and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, how is that fun to spin? And maybe it's just me being so aspirational oriented with my tastes. But, I mean, yeah, give me a hard situation. Give me a dark scenario. Give me a very challenging. Sure. Great. Okay. Do we have anybody to root for to overcome this? And it was just like Battlestar Galactica was just systematically making me not give a crap about every episode. It was like, yeah, I don't care about that character anymore. All right. No, I don't care about that character anymore. It was just like, what's your end goal here? And then, apparently the end result, wasn't very satisfying for a lot of people. Maybe you guys found it satisfying, or but it was like, what? It was one of those instances, kind of like Lost, where you realize at the end, the ending they had wasn't in their sights as they started the show, or if it was, they veered so far from it that it's not a well coherent, developed through line. Which is the case with a lot of shows that they've been doing over the past 10 years or so. Under Hernandez says, do you recommend the Frankenstein movie, Kenneth Branagh's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein? I remember really enjoying it. I don't think I've seen that again since I was probably in high school when it came out. Around then, I remember really enjoying it. It does take tons of liberties. Of course, it's kind of like Bram Stoker's Dracula by Coppola. They're calling it Bram Stoker's Dracula and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, but they're not in any way trying to be absolutely true to the book and adaptation wise. But I remember really enjoying what they did with it. I can't really give you a total Professor Geek stamp of approval recommendation until I watch it again. I did enjoy. I like different takes on classic stories like that. Like I can't remember the name of it, but there was the movie Sting played Dr. Frankenstein, and Clancy Brown, I think, was he the Frankenstein's monster? It was interesting. It was more. It was about how he kind of went his own way out in the world while Dr. Frankenstein was doing making the woman and stuff like that. And that was an interesting take. So yeah, I like it when you've got an interesting take if you're trying to do something different and new. And I kind of felt like Coppola and Branagh's Dracula and Frankenstein were that, even though they were named, misleadingly. Yeah, I remember enjoying it. I really should watch those again. Guyvart says, on the subject of songs telling stories, when I listen to heavy metal, specifically from the 80s, there's plenty of stories that harken back to Norse mythology or epic fantasy. Well, yeah, I mean, it depends on what you mean by heavy metal, right? Fan Man's been super getting into Iron Maiden lately. And I've liked some Iron Maiden, but I never really got into them. But he's been showing me how, pretty much all their stuff is historically driven, stories or myths and epic and stuff. I like a lot when it comes to metal. I like a lot of the hair metal bands, which aren't so much telling stories as they are just rocking and having a good time, But yeah, a good songwriter who can tell a good story. I've always been so fascinated by that. I knew I played in a band one time with a guy who was really good at that. He wasn't the greatest musician. He just knew a handful of chords, but he was so good at crafting a story with his with his lyrics and with his structure there and stuff. And he would just get some of us who, I was the bass player, obviously, and he would get some, really good guitarists and stuff like that around him to kind of take it to the next musical level. Well, Chad has jumped around here. Gentle Savage, welcome. Good to see you. Have you ever heard about how animation industry is collapsing? If so, any thoughts? Clownfish TV has been covering it. No, I haven't heard anything about that, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, once everything went to computers, it's only a matter of time before less and less talent is required. Now, I say that carefully because I don't mean that no talent is required for a computer animated thing. I mean, we're not necessarily talking AI. The person that comes to mind, for example, is Rob Pratt, who is the guy who does the 2D stuff on YouTube. He did the 2D Superman little short anime adventures. He did a Flash Gordon one, was so great because for his proper job, he works as a director for some of Disney's like 3D animated series. And I'm follow him online. He actually interviewed him once. We were talking about the Fleischer Superman series and talking about his 2D stuff that he was doing. But he shows a lot of his process, so I know that there's a lot of talent involved. But once the whole industry fixates on that and says, yeah, no more 2D animation, that's too time consuming, too expensive, we're all in on the computers now. It's that's a slippery slope of let's cut more costs, let's cut more costs. Do that with the loss of story and the way the agenda is creeping into the animation and stuff like that. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, I was watching, Alyssa wanted to watch something the other night, so I put on the old 60s cartoon of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which I used to like watching growing up too. She loves the Archies. I'm a big Archie fan. And yeah, I mean, why would I watch anything new when it came to animated shows or something like that? Yeah. Let's see. Oh, thank you, EC Mono. Nice camera. Channel's looking great. Yeah, I switched to this computer some weeks back and started using my cell phone for the webcam. Other than occasionally freezing or glitch, occasionally like that, otherwise it's pretty good. And if I want to do a standalone video, I just have StreamYard record it. Instead of stream it, I just record straight to StreamYard, and that's usually pretty good, no glitches. But if I cut out a video from a live stream, sometimes a glitch will be in there. You'll see like an image pop up over my face because there's like a still of me making a weird funky face or something. Yeah, independent animation is great, Guyvart. The thing about independent animation, if it's done like like a really great 2D movie, like you had in the past, is that that's very time consuming and very expensive. And big studios, Disney could do it back in the day, or Warner Brothers could do it, or whatever. Now they're not going to put their resources into that because they think they can cut so many costs, So you're left to like the independent artists actually to spend time doing it. And one of the things Rob Pratt talked about in that interview that I did with him, and you can just look up his channel too, is how time consuming that Superman 2D. I think he did two of them. They're maybe a minute long, maybe. And that was like almost a year of work because he was doing everything. He was drawing each and every frame and then he was putting it together. So you kind of have to have your own independent company, or at least have a lot of people working around you to do good old school 2D animation. I would imagine even like the old great Hanna-Barbera stuff that, could cut corners here and there, could have the same sort of pose, overused and stuff like that. I don't know if rotoscoping is easier or less expensive, but I love the look of a good rotoscope. I know it's not for everybody, but I like that. Yeah, it's a very time consuming thing. Yeah, when I say Archie, Ghost Planet, I'm not talking about the modern current Archie comics. Just occasionally they'll put out something that's good, like a Elseworlds kind of thing or something. But I'm not following their current continuities by any means. All right, so wrapping up here in a few minutes, Andre Hernandez talks about the direct-to-DVD sequels. Depends on which one you're talking about, really. I mean, it is a cash grab, a lot of the times. The Aladdin direct-to-DVD sequels obviously completely paled in comparison to the quality of the first one, but the second one was really, in a lot of ways, just a setup for the animated series. And if you look at it like that, like almost a TV movie setting up the animated series, it's not bad. It's not that bad. Yeah, I mean, any direct-to-DVD Disney animated sequel, I can't think of any sequel they've ever done which has been better than the first, but some of them have been okay. Yeah. Mel Winus, I have the original Ghost in the Shell anime movie. It's wonderful, and I actually really, really enjoy the standalone Complex series. I think there was one more Ghost in the Shell series they did after that, total different envisioning of it, that I haven't watched yet. But man, standalone Complex was great. And that kind of took it. That was sort of a re-envisioning itself of the original movie. But the original movie is wonderful. And I'm not talking about the Scarlett Johansson live action one. I'm talking about the classic anime Ghost in the Shell. What a great! I used to do a podcast with Fan Man and Big Al. It was a Catholic podcast called the Holy Roman Fanboys. The geeks shall inherit the earth. It was a fun podcast to do, and we would talk about geeky things like that, but through sort of a religious lens. And one of the cool things about Ghost in the Shell is the exploration of are you a spirit or are you a body? And Christian theology, of course, is we're not a spirit that has a body and we're not a body that has a spirit. We're both a body and a spirit. So it was interesting to see how the Ghost in the Shell, whether just the original film or even standalone Complex, really explored and played with those ideas. What's another one that did that? Shoot, I can't think of it was a Netflix series. Can't think of it. They did a second season that I didn't see with Anthony Mackie, but the first season was I can't remember the name, but it was a cool concept. It was based on a book that I hadn't read, but the idea that they downloaded like a person's brain was like in the stack, like at the back of their base of the brain, and they could take that out and implant it in new bodies or whatever. It's a fascinating concept. One of you guys will throw it out there and I'll know it, but yeah. All right. No, I'm not familiar with the Shogun show there. Gentle Savage. I don't know much about the history of that. Yeah, Ghost in the Shell. You can look at it. It's very a Gnostic idea in a certain extent, but there's also really cool explorations of things too. Because to some degree, especially the standalone Complex, it's very much a critique of the way they're handling people's bodies and souls, so to speak. So that kind of recontextualization is what I think good science fiction is for. recontextualize something, make it completely different than what we believe or what we know. If you're going to do it to explore it and give us some thoughts or lessons from it, not necessarily arguing for it necessarily. I'm sure Altered Carbon was, thank you, that was the name of the show. I wouldn't trust anybody really doing a Ghost in the Shell reboot today with the whole transgendered agendas out there, which is trying to say, no, you're not your body at all, and all this kind of stuff. I wouldn't trust it today. But back then, it was a topic that could be, well thought out or well played with. All right, looks like it's 9:04. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up here just to kind of gracefully bow out before I become too too discombobulated to make sense. I know, Nathaniel's Lowsball, I am sorry. We did early just for tonight. Next week we'll be back. But Sound Engraver put Soundtracks with Birdman's channel link in there. I'll try to find it again for you to throw up there. But you can see she's going to be joining Soundtracks with Birdman for they're going to be watching a orchestra, Houston Orchestra, is that who's doing it? Doing John Williams' Star Wars music. So that's why I'm doing a little earlier tonight, so I'm not fighting her for the Wi-Fi. Yeah, I'm not being able to find it on the fly here. But yeah, just look up Soundtracks of Birdman. You'll find his page. Oh, I do have a super chat here on the way up. Thank you, Guyvart. Appreciate it. So while I haven't been drawing for a while due to a lot of life responsibilities and stuff, I do still come up with ideas for my stories and plan on getting back to it. Well, that's a great point, and that's, a lot of writing isn't always writing a draft. A lot of writing is dreaming. A lot of writing is thinking about things, taking notes on it. I have a bunch of little hardbound journals that I keep around where I can jot down notes or make connections and this and that, and stuff. And sometimes it takes a long time of doing that before you're ready to actually, start the actual file of the narrative, But, yeah, so good idea. Thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out with me tonight. I know it's a very, very weird stream, but hopefully it was fun. Stream of consciousness, if nothing else. So, fun chatting with you guys. I appreciate it. I'll have some content. I'll put some new content or something out this week because I want to keep the channel steady as I can over the summer. But, yeah. So thanks for hanging out, and until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue hero stories you love. See you later.